arrangement the way we did it back in the day. I'd like to welcome all to the June 1st Wilton Town Board meeting. Would everybody stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Supervisor Lamb?
Here.
Deputy Supervisor McCachran?
Here.
Councilman Bogardus?
Excuse.
Councilwoman Colligan? Here. Councilman O'Connor?
Here. Is anybody signed up to speak?
Let me grab that for you. We have Ed Kukowski.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm here because I am opposed to any solar project approval before the moratorium is completed. I'm a citizen of Wilton. I live in Wilton, and that's how I feel. I feel very strongly. If it's worth doing, it's worth taking the time to do it right for Wilton and for every contractor, anyone that's involved in this whole project scheme. So that's my opinion, and that's what I'm here to state.
We have, Mary Gell.
Hello, I'm Ed's neighbor, and the Millwood crowd is kind of throughout this evening here. And I just want to say again, I agree with that. Our neighborhood is a small neighborhood. We're very close. We watch each other's back. We take care of each other. And even though we're a loop, and my house is one that is right up against where the solar panels could go, I've got all my neighbors here that are supporting just our homes that are along that line that will be directly impacted. My husband and I are putting in new flooring, so again, we want to stay in our house, and my husband was the one who said we're going to move if it happens, and I don't want that to happen. So thank you.
We don't either.
Tony Sturm.
Tony Sturm, 41 Parkhurst Road. I wanted to comment on two things. The first thing is one of the items that was taken off the agenda. It's the proposed local law number 8 to regulate soliciting. Is that going to reappear at a later date?
It needs some work to it, some of the wording, so.
Okay, then I'll still comment then. I'd like to ask the board to explain to the public what's the reason for, in the current wording, the definition of soliciting was extraordinarily broad. It included such things as conducting surveys, distributing handbills and pamphlets, all sorts of activities that did not have any commercial or, exchange of money nature attached to it. And I think the wording in it was so broad that it could really impede actually expression of free speech and a sense of community among neighborhoods where people could reach out. When I was a kid, I did a survey of some of the old homes in Wilton. I went and I knocked on doors and met with the homeowners and did a survey on the history of their old homes. This would prohibit that. What about Girl Scout cookies? What about any kind of activity that's very small scale in neighborhoods? I think the wording has a very chilling effect on that. There's also a sentence stating that anyone with a felony conviction can't get a permit for soliciting. If someone's done time and has finished their time for the state, This is a state that allows felons with completed convictions and to be able to vote in elections. Why couldn't someone who started a business be able to get a permit? I can understand sexual offenders. You wouldn't want them roaming around the neighborhoods. But so I have those kinds of concerns. The other item that I wanted to comment on was I was at 2 of the recent 3 committee meetings. There was a committee meeting on addending codes, one on the Jones Road Bicycle Trail, and a third one on solar. Sorry, I was at 2 out of the 3, and to my knowledge, there were no minutes taken at any of these meetings, and I'd like to comment on that and ask the town to provide the resources so that can happen.
There were minutes.
There were minutes.
There are minutes taken.
Yeah. There was a tape recorder during mine.
Okay, all right, so I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
And Joanne Klepetar, please.
Hi. I'd like to make a comment about the monies available with the American Rescue Plan and the uses for that money for the town. It's rumored that there's a possibility of a new conference room or possible addition for a larger conference room. And I just feel like for the 4 or 5 times a year that there's standing room only, a new sound system, and some comfortable stackable chairs would be sufficient. And I also think it has been almost 20 years since a townwide survey has been done, and the comprehensive plan will be up for redoing in 1 or 2 years. And I wonder if there's any consideration to be done to doing a townwide survey again. I think Mr. O'Connell was mainly in charge of it 20 years ago. I have those results, and I suspect that the results would probably be about the same that they are now. People don't want all that development. They want open space and so on and so on. So I think if residents had their choice of a quality of life project as opposed to a new conference room, that might be something to consider. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you all for speaking.
Will there be a separate comment here?
Sure.
Start?
You want to speak?
No, there will be. Now is the time to speak.
Next month at the public hearing.
Oh. I just see that. If I can just clarify, I'm not apologize.
If you want to speak, speak.
We don't stop anybody from speaking.
All right.
Unless they take more than 3 minutes. Yeah.
Paul Kelly, 27 Collihill Drive. I apologize for not being prepared. It just has come to my attention that Lodestar Solar is seeking a suspension or a termination of the moratorium as opposed to one particular project here on Route 50. I don't know if that's going to be taken up tonight or next month.
Next month.
Next month,
Yeah.
okay.
The only thing they're requesting, correct me if I'm wrong, is like a public hearing.
Okay, yeah, perfect. That's what I wanted to bring up. And unfortunately, I won't be here, so my comments, I guess, will be kept in mind for next month. The review of the solar issue here, and while I have some sympathy towards the predicament of the applicants, and they do have some persuasive arguments regarding reliance on the town code and whatnot. Also, since the town has the moratorium, I planned on being more prepared, and I didn't have time to go through and look at what their situation was, and now I won't be here next month because I thought the moratorium would still be in effect, so I won't have time to make those comments. I'll try to pass them along to somebody else
Yeah, write something up
and submit it, but that's one thing that I would say, that maybe the moratorium is not completely lifted at this point, but not completely delayed, which is legislature have an opportunity to address all the items.
The moratoriums are lifted.
Yeah, I was
It won't
gonna
be
say.
lifted. And anything you can submit it in writing to Sue and she distributes
Well,
it.
it seemed like
for
that
public
they were
record.
requesting that they were seeking an exemption or some kind of relief.
It's not going to change the moratorium.
Okay.
They're basically said, but I think is that they've had their applicant in before the moratorium started, and they're seeking something like that, which we'll find out more next month, so.
Right. Well, I guess a moratorium to me means that you're not proceeding with anything, regardless of when it was submitted, because you need approval. So, thank you.
Well, I wouldn't do that to somebody that put time and money into a project, not so much just solar, but any project. It doesn't matter what it is. If somebody has their application in, they paid their dues, they put their application in, and we decide that we found a problem and set a moratorium, I wouldn't make them spend all that money for nothing.
Well, I guess the only comment I have in their application that they said they spent 15 months on this and then 7 months were at the town council, so there's another 8 months that weren't involved in the town at all. When you're running a business and you're running risk and you're doing that in your business calculation.
We're not saying that we're going to give them the exemption. I'm just telling you that that's my thoughts on a moratorium are a little different than.
Yeah, there's a lot of mischaracterizations of things here. First of all, the application is not to end the moratorium. The application is for a variance from the moratorium. We're not being gracious in affording anybody an opportunity for a public hearing. The law requires a public hearing be held on an application for a variance from the moratorium. The issues you're raising are perfectly appropriate to be raised at the public hearing, whether you're physically present or do it in writing, and I think the town board shouldn't really debate the issue tonight prior to the public hearing.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Everybody get a chance to read the May minutes? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Been a long time Wilton resident, passed away last month. I always felt he was a legend, a hero in this town. We got a proclamation for him commending William Morgan. What's your father's middle initial? I don't want to get mixed up with you. E. William E. Morgan, born March 8th, 1936, passed away May 3rd, 2023. Whereas William Morgan was a member of the National Guard for 3 years, and William Morgan was dedicated to the Wilton Fire Department, holding every line officer position. William Morgan served as a fire commissioner for 5. He served for 15 years and was chief of the Wilton Fire Department for 30 years. Bill was instrumental in getting the first 3,000-gallon tanker, probably the first in the county and even the surrounding counties. Bill was key in getting the Knox box law put in the town of Wilton, providing safe entry without damage to properties for fire and police personnel. William Morgan had supported the community through volunteering his time and providing his commitment to the Wilton Fire Department for 67 years. William Morgan served as a resident of the town while on the Board of Assessors and later as a motor vehicle operator for the Wilton Highway for 20 years. Proclaimed that the Wilton Town Board commends William Morgan for his commitment to the town and residents, and be it further proclaimed that the Town Board forward a duty and scrolled copy of this proclamation of commendation to the William Morgan family. In witness whereof we hereunto set our hands and fix the seal of the town of Wilton, Bill was also, I believe, the father of 6 and married to a wonderful woman by the name of Alice, who left us all too soon. If you want to come up, William, being a senior, now the thing.
I'm a senior.
Thank you for your dad's
Thank you, family. I like to thank you for
great service.
You know what the old man would say? It never had to be done.
Our lawyer's got some business, so we're going to jump to number 8, proposed local law 7 of the 2023 code amendments, CR2 to RB1, CEQA, and we need a motion. You want to talk about that, Ryan?
I think everybody's aware.
Where the property is, maybe.
It's on Route 9. I've been too involved with this change, but it's the existing CR2 zone. It's by the SUNY Adirondack building area, or south of there, I believe, and it's changing over to RB1. Which on, everybody looks on their zoning map there. I don't know if we have our maps in our packet still.
I do have.
But it was in last month, so I think everybody's aware of.
Yep. They are there.
Yeah, I know.
Yep. You have number 8. Okay. It's not in color.
Does anybody have any questions for me? I'll try to.
Somebody want to make a motion?
We have to do seeker first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
What's that?
We have to do seeker first.
Oh.
Right, when the town board's ready, we can go.
Okay, I'm sorry, go on.
So this is your secret review based on the environmental assessment form dated today in the name of Supervisor Land. And you're answering the questions in part 2 of the environmental assessment form as they relate to this change of zoning designation for this portion of the town of Wilton. I doubt we're going to get back to any of the micro questions. We're just going to go with the big questions. There are 18 of them. First one is impact on land. The proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. It's a yes/no question.
No.
And remember that this form is not really super helpful on legislative actions like rezoning. It's tailored to when there are real projects involved, but we're stuck with the form. So impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site.
Nope.
The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies.
Nope.
Proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer.
Nope.
No.
Proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding.
No.
Proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source.
Nope.
Proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna.
Nope.
Proposed action may impact agricultural resources.
Nope.
Land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
Nope.
Proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
Not to my knowledge.
Proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan.
No.
12, the answer to question 12 has to be no because we don't have any designated critical environmental areas in the town of Wilton. Question 13, proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems.
No.
Proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy.
Nope.
No.
Proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
Nope.
Proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants.
No.
And the last are the 2 extraordinarily poorly worded double negative questions. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans.
No.
And lastly, the proposed action is inconsistent with the existing community character.
It is not inconsistent.
Right, so the answer is no. Like I said, I'm not the author. So you've answered all the questions appropriately, in my opinion, negatively, and that means that you could make a motion for a secret negative declaration if you wish to do so.
I'll make a motion for a negative declaration under secret.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And if you want to make, and that means you can also adopt the proposed amendments by motion if you wish to do so.
That makes sense.
Had we already held a public hearing on the zoning change?
We did. We were waiting for the county referral.
That's right. Okay.
Yep. Which we received.
Okay. Then I'll make that motion to make the amendment to the zoning.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. TDR lands of Pickett to Forest Grove.
Good thing you know your way around here.
Yeah.
Been here, never been here before.
Which ones are they?
I don't know that one yet.
No,
Ron's not
All right.
Good evening. Joe Damble with the Environmental Design Partnership on behalf of Forest Grove LLC. In our application for the town's recently adopted or newly adopted transfer of development rights. I believe it's now been in legislation for about a year. We were the first project that has gone through this project. We started at the board, the town board. We went to the planning board. Had a couple meetings, May 17th most recently, at which time the planning board gave us a positive recommendation to allow for the transfer of development rights from the Pickett parcel to the lands of Forest Grove. In exchange, the entirety of the Pickett parcel, 80 plus acres, would be dedicated to the town. Just briefly overview, I know this board is very familiar with this project. The red is the Forest Grove property as it stands right now. 321 lots are approved on that parcel of land. Since the approvals, and we're now into phase 1B, which is getting geared up for construction here in the next month or so. We've acquired more land. We've acquired land immediately to us, about 100 acres. This is the Pickett parcel on Ruggles Road, and there's another parcel of land we're working to acquire on the north end of the property. This is the approved master plan for Forest Grove, which is on the left side of your screen, north being up. The yellow property down on the lower right-hand portion of the screen is the Pickett property. Now this is a unique property associated with the transfer of development rights. The uniqueness of it is we are surrounded by lands of the state of New York and also lands of the town of Wilton, surrounded on three sides. What this parcel is going to do is going to be able to create a large, contiguous parcel of land that is all open space to the town of Wilton, which, hearing from some of the speakers before, having large open space areas is very, very much a desirable attribute of the town of Wilton. So by approving this project, which we would be asking this board to do, we would be advancing that idea to create larger contiguous pieces of open space. In consideration for the transfer, if we were to propose a subdivision on this land without town board approval. We've worked back and forth with Ryan Riper, the town engineer, as well as a third-party engineer who reviewed these plans, and we came to the conclusion that 29 lots would be a reasonable approval on this property. So we would be looking to transfer the 29 lots from the Pickett parcel, adding them to the Forest Grove community. North is now to the right on this map. This is the approved 321 lots. We will be doing some rearranging, changing of the lots, the area highlighted in green. See if I can get it to work. There we go. Over in this area would be the approximate location of the 29 lots that would be added to the Forest Grove property. Once this board approves it, we still need to go back through the planning board and the planning board process of the subdivision and subdivision approvals. But this is the next stop on our ride to get this done. We think this is a great opportunity for the town to bring these lots to the subdivision and, more importantly, create this large contiguous area of open space within the town. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I like it. I have no problems with it.
It's a great example of why we adopted the transfer development rights.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
In favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I heard your daughter speak, zoning meeting. Very educated, very smart, did a heck of a job, had the crowd laughing. I think it's about time you gave her a raise.
I'll tell you, you said so.
I meant to call you, but you got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and now it's in town board minutes.
By the way,
Be official then.
Peter?
You're obligated now.
Peter, speaking of open space trails and all that sort of thing, for the first time I walked the rough cut trail that goes from the end of Scout Road all the way down to where the emergency squad is. It's a nice swath of trail that's going to be developed through there. Yeah, it's about maybe a hair more than 3 miles long, but it was a nice walk through there.
Walk 3 miles?
Very good.
Nothing?
Each way.
Thank you.
6 miles.
Round trip.
John, did you just lose your breath?
I did. I had to catch my breath. Hooray.
Senior housing, Scott?
I don't know if everybody, you found that in your packet, the letter from Katie Coons.
I saw that.
Okay, that came in today at 5 o'clock.
You know everything works?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Good evening. Scott Lansing with Lansing Engineering, representing the Markstone Group. I think the board is quite familiar with this project. We were before the board last month. There were a few requests, which I'll go through a little bit. But just to refresh the board's memory, it is located at 4029 Route 50 south of Ingersoll Road, approximately 30 acres. It is currently zoned C1 commercial. On the parcel, there is an existing gift shop in the northern area of the parcel. North is oriented towards the right of the page. We're proposing as a senior living community. It's comprised of 3 buildings. Each building is 130 units for a total of 390 units. We do have a single primary access on Route 50, a boulevard type access in the center of the parcel, and then we have a secondary emergency access towards the north where the small clearing is on the northern portion of the parcel. As far as green space, the code does require 25% green space. We are providing 73%. Setbacks is required to have a 50-foot front yard setback. We are providing at a minimum 154 feet back from Route 50, And changes since the last time, or the second to last time, there were some concerns about the position of the buildings. We have centered the buildings on the parcel to provide maximum buffers on each side. We have prepared a grading plan for the parcel. So prior renditions of the plan did not include much screening along the front of the parcel. We prepared an actual grading plan for the parcel, layout of the parcel, so we're able to identify where we need to clear and grade on the parcel, so we're able to maintain a large swath of trees along the front of the parcel. As far as questions at the last meeting, the first one was relative to if it was possible to preserve the gift shop. Shortly after that meeting, Mr. Viper contacted me and indicated that there was a desire to look at the structures, possibly preserve portions of the structure, and not preserve, but repurpose portions of the structure and take pictures of the structures. I was able to talk with the town historian today, and since then the town historian has written a letter to the town board. I will read that for the board's record.
We've read that.
Oh, you do have it? Okay, so I can read that. Okay. Okay, and just to follow up on that letter, I did talk to the applicant for the project, have coordinated, they're under contract to the parcel, have coordinated with the real estate broker, and the town historian is going to be going out to the parcel shortly to take photos, take a look inside the structure and see what can be repurposed. So that is in coordination at this time. Another question by the board members were what are the projected price range of the units. I was able to obtain that for a single bedroom unit. Right now they are projecting $2,500 per month. One bedroom with a den, $2,900 per month, and a two bedroom would be $3,500 per month. And these are numbers that they're projecting at this time. Obviously, things might change when the project's approved, built, and what the market might be at that particular time.
What was that, one bedroom again? I'm sorry.
One bedroom is $2,500 per month.
And the luxury apartments are less than that at the mall, aren't they? I don't know off the top of my head. I think they were. Okay, thank you.
Good. And last but not least, there was a question relative to the traffic on the project. There was a request for a traffic impact study. We have provided a copy of that to the town for review. I do have Alana Moran from BHP Engineering here this evening to answer any questions that the board might have on that traffic study. With that, that's essentially it. We hope we've addressed all the comments that the board has, and if so, we would like to request consideration for approval of the special use permit so we can then go to the planning board and work out the various site plan design aspects of the project. Thank you very much.
Ryan, did you look at that traffic portion of what is?
Yeah, so if you have any specific questions.
Oh, I got it for you. You work for us. So.
Yeah.
Well,
what's your thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes. Well, Lana here is, she's done the study. She's the one who...
Are you okay with it?
Well, it's saying there's no mitigation needed. Okay. And I know that's, based on the study that was done.
Yep.
And, it's a DOT road, so it's DOT's call on what.
No, I get it.
So.
The consideration was about the coming out of there and not having a turn lane.
Exactly. So coming out of the.
Or going in, going out, whatever. There was a turn lane.
There was mention last time of a deceleration lane. Right. And turning in. I know DOT's probably going to have an issue with that.
Yeah, they won't put one of those in.
Yeah, they won't allow that in their right of way. However, it's one of these things where we understand the situation. Pulling out of the site is probably going to be more difficult, and it comes down to your level of service. The level of service is the time it takes for you to make your turning movement. And I'll let the expert talk about that.
Good evening, Alana Moran with BHP. Yes, we did complete the traffic evaluation for the proposed project, which is a senior housing development, roughly 390 units over a 6-7 year period to complete. So the thing that's been mentioned really has been vehicles exiting the site and having the opportunity to make that left turn typically to get out of the site. There's a couple things we look at when we determine whether there's some form of mitigation needed for that. One is sight distance. So does a vehicle waiting at the intersection, at that driveway, have sufficient sight distance to safely make that maneuver? In this case, we are well above the sight distance requirements. They're not requirements, they're guidelines, but sight distance guidelines for the operating speed that's out there on the roadway. So that part we're good about, right? The second thing we want to look at is level of service. So how long, as Ryan said, how long does it take for a vehicle waiting at the driveway to turn typically left
out of the site. So if you're at the site and you want to head, more into town towards exit 15, how long are we waiting there? During the morning peak hour, it's about, I want to say 30 seconds, but let me make sure that's actually correct.
And the peak was 7 to 8 or 8 to 9?
In this instance, the peak is from
7 to
8 to 9 a.m. was the document. So what we did was put an ATR, so the tubes that you kind of will see on the roadways sometimes. We put the tubes out there to identify when the peak was. In this instance, it's from 8 to 9 a.m. And then the PM peak hour was from 4 to 5 p.m. And just so you know, that what we're looking at volume-wise is 665 vehicles during the morning and 1,148 vehicles during the PM peak hour. So that's what we're looking at for like our two-way traffic volume on Route 50 right in front of the site, right now. Yeah, right now.
There's a lot of cars on Route 50.
I'm confused on why that number's that much different.
So, like I drive through there all the time. I live in Northumberland.
Yeah, but you gotta go there and you gotta come back.
Right, so this is my route. I'm constantly on that roadway. I feel what you're feeling when things happen on Route 50 or nearby, right? So, and I know that when I get up in the morning and I head to exit 15 to head south, there's really not as much traffic on the roadway as there is when I'm coming home in the evenings. So those numbers don't surprise me, I guess is my point.
They got enough room to get out of there all right?
Visually, very much so. Like there's really great sight distance looking in and out. What happens?
Do we gotta sell them fast cars?
Well, we compared it to the actual operating speeds on the roadway. We didn't compare it to just the posted speeds. It's compared to the operating speed, which is, and I want to get that right.
I'm curious on that one too.
55 miles per hour in both directions. So that's what we were comparing our sight distance to. And it's posted 45 right there.
That's what I thought.
So we're comparing it to the 55 mile per hour guidelines, and we have plenty of sight distance to see both directions to make that turning movement into or out of the site itself. So then the next part is looking at level of service. How long does it take to get in and out of the site? And during the morning peak hour, that 8 to 9 a.m., like if you're exiting the site, we have a single lane exiting, so just one lane for left or right turns. It's about 21 seconds, 22 seconds, so level of service C, to get out. Not a big deal. During the PM peak hour, that number increases. We're closer to 100, 110 seconds to make that movement. What is really causing that delay is we're looking at a very large increase in volume on Route 50 between now and what we're looking at as full build out, which is roughly 2027. So what we're doing is increasing those background volumes by like 45% during the morning peak hour and 60% during the PM peak hour, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the town. Because what we're seeing is that delay experiencing really only during the PM peak hour, which is roughly, I'm gonna get the right number right again. During the PM peak hour, we have 28 vehicles turning left out of the site, 15 turning right. That's the time when we're seeing that longer delay. During all other times of the day, we're not seeing that. Again, during the morning peak hour, which is the other kind of highest volume period. So we are not recommending putting in a two-way left turn lane or putting a left turn lane into the site. We think it would be just kind of overkill, right? That it's not necessarily needed, especially since a lot of that volume that we're putting in the background is conceptual at this point. So we're saying that we're going to be okay getting into and out of the site without providing
that turn lane.
Mitigate anything on Route 50.
Now, was it consideration with the roundabout brought into this equation at all? Not at all.
No.
So the roundabout doesn't play in to what
Either
we're
way.
doing right here.
So what, common sense.
Well, that would slow the traffic down.
Well,
that's what I'm thinking.
It would probably slow traffic down in the northern end.
Going north, right.
Common sense comes into play. Like you guys are familiar with Smith Bridge Road. People that know.
I was familiar with the car into the pole today.
Yeah. So usually, you have your peak hours, and if people are going to work during that peak hour, they get cut across Davidson Drive over Northern Pines Road. The lights come down through. So similar to this, somebody that knows the timing, if they're trying to leave the site, they may take a right out of here, travel north on Route 50, and hit either Ingersoll or
Oh, right.
They, at the traffic signal currently. So,
Smithbridge Road, I take a right and turn around the fire department to go left.
Right.
Is generally what I do, and that's what I tell my customers to do.
Your own roundabout.
It's safer, my own roundabout at the firehouse.
So, is it the right way to look at this? But it comes down to sometimes common sense. If it's between 4 and 5 o'clock and somebody tries to leave and they say, oh, it's really busy, I'm just going to take a right. I mean, I know I would do something like that because I'm impatient, but...
So we do own mitigation?
Did he just say he was impatient?
He is. He did, I mean.
What would it take to have that slow down lane off Route 50 into the parcel? So if it's marked at 45,
I think a
and the
turn
average
lane.
speed was 55, I think you said the 85th percentile.
85th percentile. So that's the speed at which 85% of the traffic is traveling at or below. The average is less than that, but we want to try and be as conservative as possible with those numbers. So 55 miles per hour. The DOT is not typically a fan of decel lanes. So like if we were southbound, two things. Northbound, you would have kind of a right turn deceleration lane into the site. They don't really like deceleration lanes in this particular region.
Except for we had to put one in at Perry Road, like
so
100 feet prior to that.
Right, so Perry Road's a little bit different because Perry Road's actually, it's not a deceleration, so to speak, it is actually a left turn lane. So when you're heading northbound on Route 50 and you're at Perry Road, the left turning traffic actually gets out of the way and makes that left turn. So that's what happened there. It was the reason it went in was a safety mitigation because there had been a crash pattern there, DOT saw it, the town saw it, and they put this in as a particular safety mitigation. Because the site distances are very good at the location where we're having the site driveway, we're not anticipating that type of potential crash history.
How far down the road from Perry Road is this entrance?
I think it was more the Perry Road, the way it came out. It wasn't like perfect T.
It's a little Perry Road, when you went north, it was like the acceleration once you got through that traffic light, and then people were hitting their brakes to turn, and that's why they were getting rear-ended.
Exactly.
So how far up, how is this going to be, how far up to the right is this? That's not going to be the next acceleration zone.
Right,
that it
so
goes
the difference here is that when we're making a right turn into the site, you're not opposing anybody, so you don't have to wait for that southbound traffic in order to actually find a gap. So anybody who's coming from the south and coming up just gets to, boop, I can just turn in. I slow down, which is good, but I don't have to wait for anybody to make a left turn. If we were across the roadway, then it would be the same situation as Perry Road.
Okay.
So one thing that was discussed to potentially help that, they have a boulevard entrance into the site, and DOT requires 25-foot radius at their curb cuts, I believe, that's what the radius, but is to maybe enhance the entrance so it's a little bit wider, so they can enter.
Well, it's going to be like another dangerous road. People are just going to drive over the white line so that they can slow down on their own, not get hit on the backside, and take a right-hand turn. They're going to do it themselves. That's what I'm just thinking, can we just be proactive and ask the state for a turn lane so that people aren't just driving onto the shoulder to make that safe right-hand turn? I mean, we have those turns all over town where people...
A turn lane, but not a slow-down lane. You're talking an actual turn lane, I'm assuming.
I actually don't even know what the difference is between a turn lane and a slow-down lane. Where it just kind of cuts over and you move over so you can slow down and turn?
So usually kind of what we're calling a deceleration lane is at an unsignalized location, which is what we're talking about here. And it's so that vehicles can pull over, slow down, and make that turn smoothly while not being in the way.
So then I'm with Aaron. What's the difference?
Excuse me?
Then what is the difference between a slow-down lane and a turn lane? There is none.
It's kind of the same thing, but except, we talk about turn lanes or auxiliary lanes at signalized intersections. But when you have it at an unsignalized location, it's really so that you can make that slow down.
But I think she's right. We have more than just one in this town. It's not just Perry Road. We have them all over the place. So what is the big issue?
Again, Perry Road is a left turn lane, which is a difference.
No, I mean, they're everywhere.
Traffic. But again, DOT, generally speaking, not a fan.
All right.
Well, yeah, because that's why we don't have one at Daniels. That's why we don't have one at Maple Ave. Up and down Route 9, we don't have them.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
No, I don't have Thank you.
Thank you. I haven't been in a traffic study in a while.
Yeah, I hope it was
It's been a hot minute. It was.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I don't know if we're done here. You all good?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Myself, I'm opposed. Carried. Gold Star Solar, set public hearing.
Wait, what?
I think we had a question.
What was the vote on the motion?
3-1. Is that how you said that, Gold Star?
Lodestar, yeah.
Gold Star Solar, set public hearing for Lucerne County Planning Board. Somebody to speak about it?
Aaron. I guess we'll just need to set the public hearing.
We need a motion. We need a motion.
Yeah.
We need a motion to set the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Now we have somebody.
Oh, yeah, I'm a representative of Lodestar. Just, if anybody has any questions about our project, happy to talk about it after. Located off Route 50. Yeah, just wanted to kind of introduce myself and make myself available to others. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, who seconded that motion?
Councilman McCackron.
So that will be July 6th at 7 p.m.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, carried. When is it?
No.
When is it?
July 6th at 7 p.m.
July 6th.
I have to send it to because that's
A 30-day waiver for PSG Golf, 615 Maple Avenue, Suite 2. That's a liquor license, Sue?
Liquor license. It's a simulator golf in the Niemer artisanal.
Oh, that's right.
They do this all the time, right?
Yep.
Or every year? Yeah, I'll make a motion.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Fee waiver, Gavin Park, Councilman McCackron. You want to talk about it? How you feel?
I feel that we require our residents to pay a fee to use Gavin Park's facilities when they belong to the people, and why are we charging a fee if they live in the town? That's my thoughts, and I had a couple residents that they brought it to my attention, actually one of our councilmen. So I talked it over with John, Dwayne, and I just feel it's an unnecessary fee to...
What fee are we talking about?
This is for the...
fees for a lot of different activities.
I was...
Sports
the waiver of the...
Pavilions?
The insurance rider or something that was about.
Right, that's what
They
you
wanted us to put a $1 million insurance rider on when you wanted to rent a pavilion, and one of our residents...
All homeowners just don't carry it for you.
If the homeowner's insurance would carry it, it'd be different, but some of them don't, and it could cost you, $150, $160 to rent a pavilion that technically the town owns, the people of the town.
The residents own it.
The residents own it, so. And I've rented pavilions all across the state, and I get a large family, a lot of birthday parties, and I've never, ever paid or put insurance on a pavilion in another town, and I just, when I heard about it in our town, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, so I did talk it over with a couple of the people, and I just feel it's unnecessary.
I'm still unclear on what. Are we only talking about the necessity to have
the pavilion
insurance?
For parties.
They want you to have insurance when you rent the pavilion.
Waiver. Right. So we're only talking about waiving the insurance requirement.
Right.
For the rental.
Correct.
Of the pavilion.
Correct. For residents of the town of Wilton. Not commercial.
Not commercial.
This is for, if you live in the town of Wilton, you will not need a resident.
And this is not the fee for the pavilion
Not the
itself?
fee. The fee is, I pay fees everywhere. Everybody pays fees, but this was just you pay the fee on top of an insurance, and a birthday party will cost you $600-700 to have it at our pavilion. And to me, up front, you do get money back, you know, they charge a deposit, you will get the money back, but, you know, at the end of the thing, it's the fee plus the insurance, and I just feel it's an unnecessary fee.
You wanna make a motion?
I make the motion.
Insurance for? Injury, loss,
Which will...
damage?
So there is, on the form, the rental form, there is a requirement that the town is named as additional insured.
Right.
So that somebody, you know, is at the pavilion, they get hurt, you know, that the town is somewhat protected from having to be impacted by the litigation or by itself. There are two other components of insurance, such as the right of subrogation and right of first refusal, I believe. Those are the two pieces of the insurance that I believe are causing the fee. From what I understood prior to speaking to the person that John is referring to, Councilmember Capron had mentioned that this person had to pay additional money because his homeowner's insurance does not allow for the typical transference of the insurance to the person's activities at the pavilion. Typically what happens is it costs no money. It's a quick phone call to a person's insurance company, say, hey, please name Town of Wilton as additional insured for the 3 hours that I'm going to be at the pavilion for this once-in-a-lifetime thing I'm doing, or whatever, once a year, whatever, and it's a done deal, and typically it doesn't cost any money. But what I learned is that depending on the person's insurance company, there could be a fee associated with the...
There was a fee. It was $160 for 3 hours.
Plus the right of subrogation, plus the other component of insurance. My feeling, without even digging deeper, is that it's the two additional pieces of insurance above requiring the town to be named as additional insured that caused the fee. That's my personal feeling, but I didn't go too deep to check that. So, in the case, I think Councilman Capron is saying that Wilton Town residents would not be required to pay an additional fee for their insurance.
Correct.
But we're still going to be named as the insured.
The town's insured no matter how you do it.
Then why would we ask for it?
Personally, yeah, I think for me, I would need an opinion from council and or our insurance carrier.
Yeah, it's really
to let us know.
From the insurer, not from us. We don't have
to let us know.
Well, I don't understand how other towns rent a pavilion out of any other town. They zero. Warrensburg, Saratoga County, up at the park, Big Boom Road. I can rent any pavilion anywhere from here up north as far as I could go renting it for a fee, and that's it. They've never asked me for an insurance.
You know, in the summer you have hundreds and hundreds of people in the park. We don't ask them for insurance. The town's got a lot of insurance. I think you're just nickel diamond the Wilton residents that own the park.
But that $160 fee goes to the insurance company, not to the town.
Right. Well, they still got to pay it.
Right, from the renter to their insurance
company. For their insurance company, that's not coming to the town. The town's not nickel and diming, their insurance company is. I'd hate to leave us to
That's a rule we made.
That there's insurance.
That they carry.
Right, but not every insurance company does. Is that what you're saying? I'm just learning about this for the first time.
Not all insurance companies.
I have not heard anything about it.
Not all insurance companies
So I'm going to do my due diligence and ask whatever questions I feel like asking about it. Because I also don't want to leave us open to litigation because kids are running through where there's water sitting in that new pavilion. They slip, fall, crack their head, break a skull. Like, God forbid, let's think worst case scenario. We just left ourselves open, we and the residents, because it's their money that would have to pay for that lawsuit.
Who pays for it now?
Yeah, we let kids...
Who pays for it now when they run through there right now? I'll drive over there right now. There's 20 kids in the pavilion. They didn't rent it. Who pays for it right now?
And we let them skate there in the winter. That's probably more than in the fall. We don't make them get extra insurance.
I think we're comparing apples and oranges, you know, to an organization, you know, individuals or whoever else might rent the pavilion. I don't know enough to know whether I'm for it or against it. So,
who covers a child at the splash park right now? I don't. I don't think we have to do an insurance when we put our kids at the splash park. Who covers it?
I spoke to the insurance company.
Where it's wet all the time.
And they had indicated that there is an understanding, an inherent understanding on the part of the parents who are taking their children into the playground or into the splash park, that they assume risk. Whereas when you're renting a pavilion, there is a difference, from an insurance point of view, not from, a discussion.
So then maybe we
If
should
some
table
kid
this.
falls and smashes his head open, they're gonna sue everybody, whether you got it or not.
They will.
But it's a matter of legality as to whether or not reliable. So, I don't...
If you wanna do a little...
Yeah, I don't have a problem tabling it.
We'll table it to next
I would
month,
just say
that's
for our
all.
insurance company to be like, why did you lift that waiver that we required? We're not covering it. We're not covering you. I think we just need to go to our insurance company and...
Well, I thought that was already done, but maybe not.
No, our insurance company does not require, it's our requirement.
Right, that's what I was, I was under the understanding it was the town of Wilton required, not our insurance company.
How long has that been?
As far as I remember. And it's, whether you have a Boy Scout camp, renting scout camp, a Boy Scout group renting scout camp, they pay insurance as well.
No,
I shouldn't say pay, they provide us with insurance that names the town as
And I did specify, I didn't, for commercial use, which that would be considered, I would think commercial use, but we're talking about somebody that wants to have a birthday party there and has to, rent the pavilion for, I think it's $150 or $250.
Yes, the large pavilion is $250.
So $250 to rent it, and then they got to pay another $160 for insurance. You're at $350, almost $400.
But to their insurance company, not to the town.
But because...
No, it's...
That money they're paying for insurance is to their insurance company, not to the town.
I'm not saying that the town's
It stinks that they
gonna
have to
win.
pay that much.
Right, that's what I'm...
But that's an issue with them and their insurance company.
I'd recommend we consult with our...
Yeah, we'll wait a month, we'll
get an opinion.
We'll bring it up next month. Bid acceptance for fuel tank. Who got the number?
Scott Harrington had looked through these, and his suggestion was Dalrymple, the low bidder, for $83,105.58. American Petroleum was $94,747.80, and Metro Environmental was $155,621.
Somebody want to make a motion, go with Dalrymple?
He was comfortable.
We said yes. Yep.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Committee reports. Got a couple things. I'd like to thank Boy Scout Pack 44024 for placing flags on our servicemen's headstones in Gurn Springs Cemetery and South Wilton Cemetery for Memorial Day. The county inter-Massalapi agreement, Ballard Road, you want to talk about that, Ryan?
Yeah, so the Saratoga County is looking to repave Ballard Road from the bridge to Route 9. And the town kind of worked with them and said, we'd like to piggyback on that contract. It's a good cost savings way to make some improvements on Traver Road here at the intersection and on North Road on the other side. North Road needs to be repaired, it's heavily rutted. The trucks, it was something that was planned to be done soon. And so we included engineering drawings with the bid package. They added us in that bidding. I think the total for North Road, Traver Road, and also something else they're adding in is a turn lane on Ballard Road for the Target trucks. And the county's paying half of that, and we're paying the other half. So I think the total for everything was $587,000, and you'll see that in the comptroller report. But we need to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the county, because the county's going to front the money, pay the contractor, and then we would reimburse them after the fact. Probably monthly period or whatever. So that's something that will need to happen. probably need the town supervisor to just sign that intermunicipal agreement. If everybody is okay with that, or if I have any questions.
And the county does the work, or you guys do the work?
County.
No.
County?
Well, the county gets it, the county's, bidding it out.
Contracts no bidder. So Ricky will be doing the paving.
Need to have a motion on that?
Enter into the agreement?
You just say, all right.
We can. Doesn't hurt.
I'll make a motion to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the county.
Have a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Either you want to talk about your meetings?
Yeah, just briefly, we had a meeting of the Trails and Pathways Committee, and at that meeting, Josh in our planning department did a real nice job of putting together a map of all the trails in the town. 83 miles, that's it right there. Yeah, we've developed over the years 83 miles of trails throughout the town. We also talked about, bikeways and, paved access, including along Jones Road. And Mike Monroe, the highway superintendent, was part of our committee at our meeting, talking about as we move ahead, widening out the roads as much as possible, and in spots where it's feasible, narrowing the vehicle travel lanes to give more space to pedestrian, cyclist interests. And as we move along, with road improvements, road replacement, road repairs, we'll be looking at that as well. And in all of the projects that Ryan's department, the planning board, looks at, we're trying to make interconnectivity of properties and trails, just like the TDR project for the Pickett property. We'll be able to link trails through that property to the adjacent town or other publicly owned lands. Did I miss anything there, Ryan?
No, I think it was just a good educational piece on all the trails and the networking that's happening in the town. It's happened over the years, and it's growing significantly with Forest Grove subdivision as well, making connections from there, because you can go from the emergency squad up through Forest Grove, connect across Edie Road, here into the Scout Road trails, and you continue from there to cross Route, from Scout Road to Route 50, as you know.
Yeah.
And it's, you can go quite a ways.
You go a long ways.
Yeah, and without, just crossing roads and stuff.
Yeah.
Made it happen.
Yeah, and the other meeting we had was regarding solar arrays. And I, for one, although I had been boning up on it, studying up on it, I learned a lot in that meeting. We had a couple of representatives, including folks from Lodestar, at that meeting, looking at ways that we should or could amend our zoning ordinance, to make sure that if solar development does take place, that it's done in a fashion that is safe, that doesn't intrude on residential properties. Let's see, what else did we talk about that I may have missed in that short summary, Ryan?
That was it. It was just good education.
Yeah.
Of the information. There's a lot of misinformation. We kind of clarified that stuff. So.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of issues related to environmental issues and that sort of thing, were clarified to make sure that if it's done safely and environmentally sound. We're hoping, anticipating that before the moratorium expires, that we'll have recommendations to the full board about zoning changes to make sure that those interests of the town and its residents are met. That's all I got.
Mine was informative with a lot of homework. They all had a task to go back and, we're working on the zoning changes and also the Gavin Park splash park. I think they did a lot of repairs on that as well.
Yeah, you did a nice job there, John.
Yes, thank you. So there's a lot of homework coming back to next week's meeting. We're going to address some density issues, some height issues, residential, commercial issues.
That's June 8th.
Yes, my meetings are always the Thursday after the town board meeting, at 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock sharp. The only other thing I gotta ask while we're in meeting is, if we were to waive the fee for the pavilion, would it be treated like the splash park and all the other amenities that we have there, you know?
Waive the fee?
If we waive the fee for the pavilion, then would it be treated like the splash park where you wouldn't need insurance to go in?
I don't think the fee itself triggers the requirement for the insurance.
So waiving
We can ask the insurance company. Let's ask.
maybe waiving the fee and let them put insurance on it and give them the pavilion for free.
We could certainly think about that, yes.
And then, you know, I think the pavilion was donated, wasn't it?
No.
No.
No, I thought a portion of it was donated.
The only people that ever gave anything.
Did you buy that,
park
Pete?
was the...
Not yet. I thought a portion of that was...
The Christopher Daly Foundation gave us a whole gym, but other than that...
No, we paid for that.
Paid for everything.
I thought there was a portion of that was...
That's good thinking.
Part of it was donated, but yeah, if we can't waive the insurance, then let's waive the fee. Something's got to change. It's just crazy to spend that kind of... And not me, I have a big enough yard with a pavilion, so it doesn't matter to me at all.
How much does it cost to rent your place?
It comes for
Do I
free.
need insurance?
No, I got plenty of it. I got news for you too. Even if they have insurance, if you think for 1 second somebody gets hurt and they have their own insurance on it, if this town isn't going to be named, you're out of your mind. They're going to go to who's got the bigger checkbook.
I brought up last month, we got a bid on our sound system. We weren't happy with it. We called another local vendor. He came, he thought just adjustments would work. He said, try it. Last month's meeting wasn't too good, but we feel this was our human error ourselves, so 3 or 4 days when it's up, we'll find out if we'll be spending money.
I feel very confident that we've nipped the situation in the bud. Based on last month's meeting, we did not have sound on these microphones.
We do now.
And now,
Me too.
So I feel that the second vendor who came in and said, look, you just need to plug this in. I think
Made
that
some
did it.
adjustments.
So,
I think you got it.
So I think we're good for now. Operator. Yes.
So we'll know in a few days.
Exactly.
Maria, you want to do your controller's report?
Yes, thank you. So the comptroller's report starts out with category 1, our budget amendments for 2023. Item 1 is using surplus in our interest and earnings category to fund the equipment that we are going to purchase to participate in the DOT dark signal program. We're going to buy 15 generators and ground rods for that program at a cost of approximately $17,500. We did get the quotes. That is a pretty good number. I'm confident that that will be the actual number. The next item is also using a surplus in our interest and earnings account to fund software system and support for our software for permits and complaints. The third and fourth items are related. Very big numbers you're going to see, but it's just a one-time movement.
Looks like a phone number.
Yeah. $587,658.19, and it relates to what our engineer Ryan Riper was talking about earlier for the intermunicipal agreement, whereas the county is going to be paying for the work that's being done and the town is going to pay their share to the county. So what we're doing in item 3 is we're moving money from the general fund to the highway fund via a transfer. Then in item 4, the highway fund is recognizing the transfer from the general fund, and we are creating the appropriation for the maintenance of roads for North Road and, for the turn lane from North Road and Ballard Road. Item 5 is using appropriated monies in our reserve account for traffic mitigation to fund the townwide traffic mitigation study. We have a quote from a vendor for $52,800. This was something that was reviewed by, I believe, Superintendent Mike Monroe, Councilman O'Connor, and Ryan Riper for various vendors that participated through an RFP process to see who would be best suited for this job, and it was that vendor for $52,800. Item 6, which is the final item on our budget amendment, is adding Davidson Drive to our roadwork schedule for this summer. We're funding it with two different sources. One is that we are recognizing the fact that the town is going to receive additional money. The state had settled its budget and approved its budget after we approved ours. The state came up with additional monies for municipalities for the CHIPS program, so we are leveraging that increase to fund part of this road work. The other piece that's going to help fund the road work is from the highway fund appropriated fund balance. So the sum total of those two is $116,000, which will be the budget for that road, Davidson Drive.
Was any of the damage to Davidson Road from when the water line went in?
Yes. That's where most of it came from.
So...
They should have been made to pave the whole road.
Yeah.
Is what should have been done.
Yeah. So that there's no input financially from...
10 years ago when it was done.
Well,
I wasn't 10
No, it wasn't 10 years ago.
4 or 5?
No, water was a
water line?
I bet you've been 5, 6 years. They ain't been over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Just talking about that earlier.
the other end of Davidson Drive wasn't from the water, though. Huh? The other end has been.
The county water line.
All right.
There's two different water lines.
Yeah.
All right.
I was like, if the bank didn't burn down.
That went to the mills.
Because that water line, did they pull it
No,
across
whatever it's
the
called, that development. That's what that was.
Yeah, so there's an 8-inch water line.
Brought up to Peter.
That all the homes are tying into. That was a separate line.
They're the ones that should have been.
Aaron's
They should have been.
County, I think it's a 48-inch line that went down through, and they did chop up the road.
The first company did too, for the apartments.
I think everybody's had their hands in wrecking that road. The last water project, which was not that long ago. The county one, and then also the one for the Route 9 project. So, we'll miss that one.
Somebody want to make a motion on budget amendments?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. The second category we have is personnel. We have a number of items. I don't know if you want to do each one individually as a vote. I think it might be more organized if we do it that way.
Yes.
Thank you. Item A, Pat Rogan, who's a motor equipment operator for the Highway Department. He had submitted his letter of resignation effective May 4th, 2023, and the board is requested to accept his resignation.
Make a motion to accept his resignation.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. The second one is Brandon Arnold, also a motor equipment operator for the Highway Department, submitted his letter of resignation effective June 1st, 2023, and the board is requested to accept his resignation.
A motion? So moved. Second.
I'll second.
In favor?
Those two items have to do with rate of pay. Did they find other jobs? I don't need to know details, just, is that what it is?
One was asked to resign, the other one got more money somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of that one?
Yeah, we will.
Yep.
Thank you. The third item is Highway Superintendent Mike Monroe is requesting to hire Kyle Podorowski as a full-time MEO to fill one of these vacated positions. If approved, Mr. Podorowski will be hired at the MEO base rate of $22.94 an hour, pending screening and background checks.
Make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. The next item is John King is requesting to hire Joe Bogovich for the position of maintenance worker at Gavin Park at the Step 2 rate of $18.54 an hour, pending screening. Step 2, because of his experience and his background in working with felt to be an adequate wage for him right now.
You're replacing the resignation we accepted last month?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
You know what bothers me of that one? Not that Mike's guys don't earn it, but you got a $4 an hour difference in pay. That's why we can't get help.
Yes, we will.
And those guys at Gavin Park work hard. You know, you got a $4 difference. It just don't seem fair to me. If you want to keep people, I know the county's having the same problem keeping people.
So what's the purpose? Why can't we just raise the rate? I mean, we're in charge of it, yeah?
So we have a step schedule right now that we're, the 2023 budget was predicated on the step schedule. We could look at for the next year budget.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple years have been a major change in the way we do business around the world. And it might be something we probably need to look into, because we're losing more people.
The cost of living's out of control.
Well, that's what I'm referring to, and, if we're not willing to make that change, then we're not gonna have a town. I mean,
When was that last increase, 2020 or 21?
The big increase that was beyond what we normally do. Right, that was 2022. 2022's budget included a $3 increase for the base pay, which then went to increase everybody else an additional 5% per step. For each step received an additional 5%. So it was a big increase at the base level, which increased everybody.
But it wasn't as big as the increase in what's happening around us.
Right, so that was 2022, and inflation didn't start to rear its head until...
Well, let's try and get this approved. We'll work on that later.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. We need a second on Joseph Volkovich.
And a second from Joseph?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you. And the last item under personnel is Jason Bruckner, who's a working supervisor for the Highway Department, is requesting to carry over 1 week of vacation leave beyond his anniversary date. He has a specific reason, and he'll be using it within a specified period right after his anniversary date. So it's not something that's going to be expected to linger beyond, an unreasonable period of time.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the exception.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you. And my last item on my report is we received our audited financial statements from our auditors, Cusack & Company, that you have in front of you. This is the 2022 fiscal year report. We received an unmodified opinion, which means it's a clean opinion. The financial statements contain the long-term view of the town's health, as well as the near-term view under a different accounting recognition. So there are the town-wide financial statements in the beginning, which, like I said, show the long-term view of the health of the town. We experienced a $3.6 million surplus this year in our long-term position, mostly related to the reduction in the liability for other post-employment benefits. Benefits are actuarially determined by a firm, and that rate went way down. So that is really the whole purpose of our surplus. That's where that came from. On the fund financial side, we look at more of a short-term view, so activities happen during the year, and we did well there as well. The town is in great health. We are using some of our available fund balance for different projects, as you saw on the comptroller's report. So it's not like we are just stockpiling the surplus. We are using it. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that our sales tax has been very strong. Even in 2022, with what's happening to the mall, our sales tax still exceeded what it was last year. So we're in very good shape. Sales tax is important because it funds, this year it was 65% of our total in revenue. So we rely on that for our budget, and it's doing very well. And also, it's the 10th consecutive year that the town has had no debt. So the town board is doing a phenomenal job with keeping costs contained so that we can be in a strong position. So I just wanted to bring up those two highlights. In addition, another highlight is what was also mentioned earlier, that the town received a donation of the Christopher Daly Gymnasium valued at $1.2 million. So that also helped to boost up our net position. Again, that's a long-term focus on our net position statements. So
Thank you. I want to thank you for always getting an A+ in the state.
You know, there's, I've been looking at financial statements for 35 years being in the banking business, and there's some language you always look for in the opinion letter from the auditor, and among them are, you want to read, the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. That regarding difficulties in performing the audit, the auditors found no significant difficulties in dealing with management, that's her, in performing and completing the audit. There were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements in the financials. And finally, there were no disagreements with management. Again, that's Maria, with the auditors. So, you know, it's get an A+ grade on this.
Thank you. Thank you. You got the map in front of you about the addition? Talk about it.
You want to talk about the email sent out to the town board earlier this week? And it was brought up by some people that, you know, maybe the town is at the point where we need to do an addition on the building. You know, several of the planning board meetings, I see that it's standing room only, and people out in the lobby having a lot of issues. So we looked into, hired a consultant to look at what would be feasible as an addition on this building, and what was thought about and come up with, because it's difficult to do an addition on a building, roof lines, trying to figure things out. But essentially, right out here in this courtyard, the building is in an L shape as it sits now. The thought would be to basically square off the building coming off of that corner over here and then back over, which would provide significant amount of space and room for a much larger meeting room. The meeting room would be upgraded with technology. The thought is, you know, instead of doing projectors, actually have screens, digital, everything is digital now. Even as board members, you wouldn't have piles of paper in front of you. You could have, if you so choose to have go digital.
Are they big screens?
An iPad?
Yeah, you know, a screen in front of you that you could.
I'm getting older.
Digitally, you know, so that's some of the thoughts. Just as far as the meeting room, additionally, the town hall, there are no vacant spaces as far as if somebody was ever hired. There's no place to put them except for the basement, which we do have 3 employees in the basement.
And it's my understanding our vault is at capacity. This is being built for the future.
For the future.
And it's served its purpose and it's outdated.
Right, this building's almost 30 years old. And the other thing is the ARPA funds that the town has, they have to be under contract in 2024. So, you know, if we're going to be using those funds, we have to do something with them.
Right. So it'll be a major improvement, and it will be built for the future.
Right. And the other, to add one more thing is, I know the court people want more space as well. It's been discussed maybe moving Wilton Water and Sewer Authority from the court building over into this particular area. We could divide it up into more space. They can sit into here.
They need storage.
And so then the court has more room as well. So it's a win for many departments.
That's what we discussed.
And the public themselves, because I sit in these meetings all the time, you know, the applicants display their project up here. Everybody that sits out here cannot see what's being displayed and talked about. I see a lot of people coming around trying to see what's being discussed. So this way there would be multiple screens, everybody can see what's going on.
What happened to the original master plan for the town complex? You ever heard that?
What are you looking at me for?
You've been here a long time. You laid the first stone here.
You put the first block in.
That's true.
3-story building.
Yeah, we used to do all the town stuff in the building next door back in the day.
You're in it. You're in it. This is it.
Oh yeah, no, this wasn't the building though.
I don't ever recall.
No, when I was first on the town board, you know,
They
the
were
only
going to
building
put
we
the
had
court and the
was
jail
where
on the first
courts
floor and the senior
are.
center on the third. I'm just curious. So obviously no one knows anything about it.
I've never seen that.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I agree with the need for more space and the upgrade and all that kind of stuff. I do not agree about the use of the ARPA funds for it though. we can always talk about it more. Because I'm kind of looking at this for the, I mean, I got it this week in our packet of stuff, or last week, whenever Sue sent it out. Still trying to kind of get a grip on like what it's going to look like and all that kind of stuff. But I just...
Oh, sorry, no, does, under the ARPA guidelines, does this meet both the legal and the spirit of the law?
Absolutely.
So, yes, legally, spirit would, I think, be more appropriate for the meeting space because that has a public component to it.
Sure.
So if we were to prorate the space for the meeting room
I think we talked about that in our meeting.
as a percentage of the total project, and say ARPA can cover part of the cost in relation to the meeting room only. But that's an idea, and we don't have to use $1 of ARPA for this project. This can come from fund balance. We can do this.
I'd rather see that, because I know when we first got those ARPA funds and we sat down and, you know, we had guidelines on when we had to kind of come up with ideas or contracts and those projects had to be finished. I mean, we have people on, you know, the Route 50 side of town that are still on dial-up. We talked about putting fiber in. We were going to wait for the county to find out if they were doing it first. We talked about recreation, something that's really going to kind of hit the community. And I just didn't see this for the, you know, love that y'all show up every month.
The county and state and federal government are working on that.
Yeah. I would just like to see that money prioritized a little differently. And use money that we have in reserves for the expansion and the build-out. I just, in my heart of hearts, don't think that that was the direction that the ARPA funds were distributed in.
Ryan, the meeting room, that is its own separate space and can be separated from the town hall building, like a lockout type thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll have separate doors. Right.
Okay, so other organizations can use it?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Joanne?
When I sat on the board and they were talking about the new courthouse and courtroom and all that, it was promised that there would be a community space that people could come and use, different organizations, and that never happened, to my knowledge.
We didn't build that type building. We refurbed it. We refurbed that, saved a couple, $2.5 million.
So hopefully this was something that provides that for other organizations.
Yeah.
Orchestrate that with people coming in at night or whatever, but
What was to separate it from the rest of the...
Well, to your point, having that separate and locked off.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's just being brought up for discussion, as we are doing now. See if it's want to move forward with this, you know, dig into it a little bit deeper. So it's, there's no resolution at this point, but
just opinion.
I'd like to see more.
Yeah.
Can you take what was drawn up and almost do like an overlay of what's here now?
I think we have that.
I mean,
do you have it? I know, I keep turning and I'm like, I can't get my bearings on where things
if you
are.
hold it like this,
and I'm definitely like a visual learner, so if I can like...
If you stand here and look out this window.
That's the window right there? Yeah. I thought that was Sue's window over there. Gotcha. The work counter. I think that was your window.
No, I'm down here.
But this is where this room is already. I thought this work counter in that window I thought was Sue's.
Oh.
I was like, what is going on?
So it's just a rough sketch idea, you know, and just want to get some thoughts.
So there'd still be a courtyard for people.
Yep.
And I actually saw Dwayne today out doing a site inspection, and he said he wanted to be on the committee, so I wanted to throw that out there, that he volunteered to be on this building committee if he wanted.
There's already two on it.
Does he want to be chairman? I'll vote for him.
He didn't show up, so he didn't.
You can have two people on it, you can't have three people on it.
Yeah.
Well, I know, you and I have sat down with the...
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what...
Really?
Yeah. I have meetings like once a month on it, so... I mean, I did miss the last one, but I was knee-deep in something, but... yeah, I come over to town hall usually when they... That's how we got this far.
Anybody in the audience have anything? Somebody want to make a motion for adjournment? I'm sorry.
Motion adjourned. I'm sorry.
guess you probably...
No, you're all right, go on.
No, he's just teasing you. He's just teasing.
No, I would just like to hear, I don't know, it could be in writing somewhere on the site, some more from Ray's committee on solar. I don't know, maybe I'm missing it on moratorium. Your committee is established.
Yep.
When's the next meeting? Has there been a progress report? Interim things, I'm sure you're making progress, of course.
Yeah. So we're... maybe to elaborate a little bit more, and this is just me talking, I'm not talking on behalf of the board, it's my opinion. I prefer to not allow any projects to go forward until we've made any of the necessary legislative changes to make sure the projects are done, again, in order to protect the environment, protect residential properties, even commercial properties, for that matter. In the conversation that we had with a couple of the solar companies, they don't disagree with us. They want to be, good corporate citizens of the town, like most every business, wants to be, because they know that by doing so, they're more likely to be successful. We don't have the date set for our next meeting, but we plan on looking at the calendar in the next few days to pick up the next date. And
just watch our website or Facebook, and it will be on there.
Yeah, and
well, we do. That's why we're here.
So Ryan in particular, has been, and we've all been looking at guidelines that have been set by NYSERDA, New York State Energy Research Development Authority, on solar arrays, their connections. There are, certain factors in these projects that are of much higher risk, and we're of a mind not to take those risks in our community. So we have some work to do. I'm hopeful that before the moratorium period ends, that we'll have the zoning and legislative changes completely drafted, that the town board would be able to act on them before the moratorium expires.
And those drafts will be out on the...
Sure.
And that will be considered at a point where public comments...
Oh, absolutely, that has to be.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, anytime there's a change to the code, we have to have a public hearing.
So at that meeting, there was available, or there existed, a draft of code revision. It was multiple pages. Is that accessible online right now?
I don't know if it's posted online, but you can get a copy of.
Yeah, I don't know if we put it online. I know we did.
We had them on the tables that day.
Yeah, we had extra copies here that day. I think we did hand them out. I think you guys got some, right? You guys got
it. Yeah. How come they're not on? How come they're not online?
They haven't been. There's a lot of editing that goes into the first draft that we looked at, so we don't want to put anything out there that's not accurate or headed in the right direction.
Okay.
It was a good meeting. We're learning a lot. I mean, learning that National Grid only has certain areas in town where the lines can actually handle it will help us be able to look at the bigger scope of town and where the projects may be more appropriate.
Yeah,
we talked about that kind of stuff. Or at what is the max that National Grid can handle? So rather than having a whole bunch of little solar farms, are we looking at the larger ones actually being our best option?
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to the point that you made on this letter, like they seem to feel they should go right ahead and enforce the old requirements right now. That's what I read from Lodestar, my interpretation of it. You can see I marked up, I read the whole thing. And yet we are looking and know a lot more, and that's what our moratorium's about. So
I think we all learned a lot.
Like in the beginning, we have to wait for the moratorium before we approve anything.
But we can't stop the applicant from making that, and that's what this is about.
This letter was asking for much more than that.
Yeah, that's not the letter. They're asking for a public hearing, and that's all just so everybody has their day in court. and then, and you can see the board it looks like they're doing their due diligence by not allowing any, they want to do it right. They want to get it right.
The first time.
You all said that? You got something, John?
Yeah, just a quick question. You talked about the expansion of the town hall, whatever, for a community room. Would it be better served to, as a multi-function kind of expansion, maybe put an annex to which you have a Gavin Park? So this way you don't have a security issue. You can maybe expand the front of both gyms and utilize that not only for different organizations.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me.
You have the land already. You're not in open tax here, so in case you have to expand City Hall, and especially with the judicial aspect of things now, where they need the space in order for them to keep and maintain the discovery issues that are problematic for the state, they need a burdensome amount of property where the community center may be used, sparingly. Just wonder if that's a feasible thing, just throwing it out there.
That's what we need, input.
That's right. Thank you. So we want to make a motion?
Which I think brings it to Joanne's point from earlier, sorry, that, maybe
Trying, John.
Committee.
The survey.
Right.
The survey gets sent out, and maybe we'll look at
due
that.
diligence, so you usually have to agree. It's a different thought of it. We were talking about before, John, about the pavilion and using that facility more as a user-friendly environment for the citizens of and I applaud you for that because it's a long time coming. But if this is also a home contention for some people, you already have the transportation, you're looking for bike trails going on Jones Road and such, it'll give multi-access for a multi-purpose vision. That's what that property was originally slated for. I thought.
Right.
34 years ago. Not a block from you, my friend.
Did you have a motion?
I have attempted several times to make a motion.
You got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I don't know what you're waiting for.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Because that could be her Gavin Park camp.